Hey everyone, Brian with Spicy Astrobites here. Today, what I want to do is work on getting irrigation installed in my front yard. What that entails is actually boring a hole underneath the sidewalk that we have in order to, get the irrigation tubing from the water source to, where we have a set of plants. Um, I expanded my backyard garden and it left me with an extra two zone timer. So I thought, well, why not just use that two zone timer for the front yard because we don't have any kind of irrigation out here. But I think adding the irrigation is going to help motivate me to um, keep it looking nicer out front. So the backyard with the garden, it's kind of my sanctuary. I think it looks great there. Front yard, you know, it's kind of disappointing. So hopefully, doing this, getting this all worked out, um, will be a good step into kind of beautifying our front yard. The one thing with boring the tunnel there is I've never done it before. This will probably be the main topic of this. Boring a tunnel, I don't know. We'll see if I can get it done because one of the issues we have with the soil here is there's large rocks pretty much everywhere. Um, there's caliche, which if you're not familiar with that, is basically like a natural concrete. And if I run into either of those two things in the 3.5 foot section that I decided to try to bore under the sidewalk, then I'm basically just gonna hit a wall and I'll have to back out and try another spot. So sometimes even digging out here, sometimes you hit a nice sweet spot, you get lucky, and you're able to dig as far down as you need to and as wide as you need to. But that's really unusual. Usually, you don't luck out. Um, so, I'll show you the materials I got. I'll show you how I'm going to set it all up, and then hopefully, I'll show you a successful mission to bore a tunnel underneath the sidewalk. Okay, here's the materials I'm going to be using. I got a 3/4 inch, 10-foot stick of Schedule 40 PVC. It's supposed to be pretty rigid, and it's what they recommend for anything that you might bury underground. There's two adapters that I will be putting on either end of the PVC pipe. One is a 3/4 inch male hose thread slip-on PVC fitting. So that's basically where the nozzle is going to thread onto, and that's what's going to hopefully bore through the soil. The other side is a female hose thread slip-on adapter, and that's where the hose will thread into. And then we have the primer and um, PVC cement. So, I'll cut the PVC to length, and then I will put the adapters on either side to set it all up. And the PVC pipe, what you want to do, from what I've read, is you want to cut it to about twice the size of the area that you're trying to dig under. So my sidewalk here is about 42.5 inches wide. So we'll just go with 85. And then we have the Big Shot Super Nozzle, or Little Big Shot Super Nozzle. Hopefully that works. I was really just looking for a more basic brass jet nozzle, but they didn't have any at the store. This was the closest thing they had to it. My only concern is that you can adjust it, and I really didn't want it to be adjustable. I just wanted it to be as powerful as possible, just a really basic jet nozzle. So we'll see. Hopefully it works. There's a pair of PVC pipe cutters just to make things easier. Usually I'll use like a hacksaw, but when this is, you know, in the ground, it's not gonna. I won't have any kind of clearance to hit it with a saw. So I thought maybe this is a good time to pick up a pair of those. Then we have 1/2 inch drip tubing. That's going to basically be the main run for both zones. And then the 1/4 inch tubing, which will then go to the various adapters. So to go along with the 1/4 inch irrigation tubing, I also bought 1 gallon per hour pressure compensating drip emitters. I have the 2 gallon per hour drip emitters in the nursery, and they work really well for the plants in the cloth pots. I don't know that a lot of these plants will need 1 gallon per hour, But the nice thing about it being on two separate zones is that, you know, the one zone is probably going to be mostly flowers, and I can just reduce the time that I water those, and then for the other ones, I can, you know, I think 1 gallon per hour is probably going to be pretty good for the rose bushes and the canna lilies. The plants get pretty thirsty when it's hot out here. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting things, gluing things, and making our little boring apparatus. Okay, now that we got that all done, we're just going to let it dry, and after that's done, we'll start connecting the hose up and see if we can get this done. See you then. All right, so you're supposed to leave the PVC cement undisturbed for 10 minutes, and for full effect, for full bonding, you're supposed to leave it for 24 hours, but to be honest with you, I don't want to wait that long, so I will wait 10 minutes, or as long as it takes for me to dig this little area here. So in the meantime, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dig out this space, you know, maybe a foot back from the sidewalk, so that by the time that's been sitting for at least 10 minutes, it'll be ready to start trying to make this work. And my impatience might bite me for doing that, but we'll see. Also, make sure you're wearing the proper footwear. I find that flip-flops work best here in Arizona. All right, so I've got about a foot dug out over there. It didn't take me as long as I thought, but you might have seen that I did pull a few large rocks out from that area, so you can imagine I'm a little concerned about what's underneath the sidewalk. Water's not going to push those out of the way. It's not going to be able to bore through them, you know, not at this water pressure. And you know, I'm aiming for about probably like I think 3 inches underneath the bottom of the sidewalk is fine. That puts us at about 6 or 7 inches deep. Through there, we don't have to really worry about frost. You know, it does freeze here sometimes, but not like in other regions of the country. So I'll bore through. I'm going to feed the 1/2 inch drip tubing through, and the idea is then that I'll hang a 90-degree right all the way down like parallel with the sidewalk, so that I'm able to shoot off from that main line to the rose bushes and the canna lilies. So that's the plan. And then I'll shoot one back to this creeping rose. So got a few more minutes to wait on the PVC to cure, and then I'll give it a go. Okay, so it's been longer than 10 minutes. I'm gonna do a super scientific test. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, so that's good. Seems pretty good. I kind of don't want to wait. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this hooked up to the hose. All right, so the brass nozzle is set up, the jet stream nozzle. Hose is hooked up. All I have to do is turn on the water and start pushing the thing through and seeing if it gets through everything. Wish me luck. plan to go a few inches under the sidewalk was immediately thwarted by a large rock, of course. So right now I'm kind of skimming along the bottom of the sidewalk, and I don't know if it's that big of a deal. You know, there's not a lot of shifting going on here. It's just a small area, so you know, I'll try to maybe pack in a lot of the dirt. You know, pack it back in as best as I can, if I can actually get through at the spot. If not, I'm gonna have to move my trench over, or dig another trench, and kind of start over and hope once again that I don't hit a wall. Essentially, I mean that's what it is really. So I'm gonna keep going, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right, everybody, I'm back. Exhausted, covered in mud, sweat, water. Just uh, that was that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And well, you know, I hit a rock, right? So it's a giant rock. I had to basically bore out around it. I reached my arms all the way in there on from either side, just to pull out as many tiny rocks as I could. Some tiny, some big, some jagged. Lots of mud, gravel. Um, so it was pretty brutal, and I almost gave up a couple times, to be honest with you, but um, I didn't, and I'm through. So let me show you that I am through, because I'm excited that I actually got through. All right, so took lots of water, and I'm not even gonna get close to pulling it out because I do not want to. I don't know. I'm just paranoid now. Um, so anyway, there's the brass nozzle. I ended up having to trench on the other side as well, so that I could try to blow out rocks from that way, from the other way, from any way I could get in there and just pulverize the soil. I did. So what ended up happening too is I still, even at the very last moment, I still was unable to feed this main, I think it's about 92 inches long, this main PVC pipe. So what I did was I had that cut off, and I was like, you know, that's a little bit more flexible. I could get in at an angle with that. And so I I went through with it, and it went right through. So whether it was just more flexible probably, or more, you know, I could get in at different angles with it. So what I did was, after I, you know, was able to push it through, I took it and kind of used it to lead the other piece through. So I just set it in there, started to feed it through, and then I pushed it through with the longer PVC pipe. So it kind of guided it through, and that worked out beautifully. So there's just I have a lot of different routes that I try to take under there, and I think that I was having a hard time getting the angles right and everything until I used this little piece as a guide. So happy that's done. I'm happy to move on to the next step of the project. Okay, so I've got the main lines, the main half-inch drip tube, poly tubes, whatever you want to call them, run the way that I wanted, the way that I kind of envisioned. Right now they're not buried, but I just wanted to make the recommendation that before you bury your irrigation, you want to make sure and check your connections, because this is, you know, obviously you don't want to go through all the effort of getting this all set up, you know, bury the irrigation lines, and then you know, in a day or two see a giant wet spot in your yard and have to dig them back up, replace them, and do all that fun stuff. So that is my recommendation, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I'll flip this around and show you how I have my two different zones set up. Okay, so there's my 2-zone timer. Not the biggest fan of this timer, but it's basically an extra one, and again, that's why I kind of decided to add irrigation to the front yard, because I had this extra timer just sitting around. Um, I put on a Y there just so that I could continue to have a hose. So I started burying them, but I have a short line coming down from the timer to an elbow there, so that it's not creating too much of. These are pretty like flexible, but you could, if you're doing like a 90-degree, they could kink up on you really quickly. So I like to put the elbows on there. I use the twist lock elbows because it's easier to replace pieces that way, and without having to go and buy a new elbow. And they don't really seem to leak on me. From the timer, you have to actually, get like a garden hose thread to irrigation line. So this is like a press to lock or whatever type fitting. And again, these are the ones I like to avoid, but that's all they had, so that's what I went with. Here's my one zone, goes off in that direction, and again, that's to water our hopefully beautiful, once again, flower bed. And then this is the nice troubling one that we had to deal with. Oops. So this one tees over here, goes off and goes all the way over to our, I think they're called canna lilies. But I'll just shoot little 1/4-inch lines to drip emitters all the way down to rose bushes all the way down this line. So that's it. So it's getting dark. I don't know how much more I can do. I'm gonna try to dig out some trenches to bury the 1/2-inch lines, and then I probably won't. I don't know if I'll install the drip emitters till tomorrow. So, all right, see you then. Hey everyone, welcome back to day 2 of the irrigation install. I've already started to trench out one of the zones that runs along the side of the flower bed. So I'll show you that, and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's completed, or once I install some of the drip emitters. Okay, before I get into showing you how I install the 1/4-inch tubing and the drip emitters, I wanted to kind of go over the parts that we'll be using. So first thing is you'll need something like this to puncture the 1/2-inch. It's getting a little windy here. You'll need something like this to puncture the 1/2-inch irrigation tubing, which is what we installed. Nice little dust devil. Okay. Welcome to Arizona. Anyway, but this is what I like to use to cut into the 1/2-inch irrigation tubing, and then before I put the coupler in. So I'll show you that. There's other types of this tool. This one's just like a sharp, pokey kind that would poke a hole in it. This one here, what I like about this one is, I don't know if it's going into focus, but it has kind of like a circular blade. So what happens is when you puncture the tube, it'll cut out a circular, the material of the tube will actually be removed from that hole, whereas something like this is simply just going to push the material in, and I'm sure it works fine. But this purple tool here came with a kit for my garden, so think it was from Drip Depot or Drip Works, I can't remember, but I'm sure you can find something similar there or anywhere online really. So then this is the barbed coupling. So just has a barbed side, and then it has the more dull flat side. So we'll go from the 1/2 inch tube to a 1/4 inch tube that you'll cut to length. And I like to just go over with my spool of the 1/4 inch tubing that you can buy. And just, since it's all going to be basically the same length along the flower bed, since I'm running it, parallel to the flower bed, I just, I just went over and I didn't measure with a tape measure or anything. I just went over and kind of like pulled the length off the spool that looked right, cut it, and then I'll figure out how many of these I want, and I'll just, the way I like to do it is just basically I'll take one as a guide, and I'll just go and pull it along the length of the spool, cut, and repeat 20 times or however many times I decide to go, however many I need. And then finally, what we'll do, and you can do this part before you install everything else, but is the pressure compensating drip emitter. So these are the these are the 1 gallon ones. I don't know if it's going into focus or not, but there's a barbed end, and then there's the end that is more dull. That's where it should flow from the barbed side to the dull side. So you want water dripping out of the dull end. Yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. One thing about these 1 gallon per hour pressure compensating drip emitters, I like to get the pressure compensating drip emitters simply because they ensure that you are getting what's advertised, right? So there's a little diaphragm inside of this that compensates for the amount of pressure that's coming into the emitter to ensure that it's outputting what it's rated for. And this is especially crucial for, probably more crucial for, gardens and things. And, these are more flowers that I'm dealing with here, but it's nice to know for sure that, the drip emitter at the beginning of the line is getting the same as the one at the end of the line. It's also critical for applications where you have irrigation running over uneven terrain. So typically, if you're not using a pressure compensating drip emitter, what's going to happen is the emitters towards the bottom of the hill are going to put out a lot more water than the ones at the top of the hill. So really good, highly recommend. They come in different, this is a Rainbird. I'm sure you can buy generic ones. What's kind of cool is they're also color coded. So if you remember what the colors mean, then you can easily, several months down the line, you can go, okay, what were those 1 gallon per hour ones are black, because I'm holding it right here. The 2 gallon per hour emitters are red, and then there's a blue one, which I'm not sure it might be 5 gallons or it might be a 1/2 gallon. So definitely check the packaging. Don't rely on what I just said just now. So I'm going to install some of these, and I'll show you up close the process that I use. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward, so I'm sure it's the process everyone uses. One other part I wanted to point out was the goof plugs. So these are just made basically for if you make a hole in the wrong spot, or if you need to close up one of your 1/4 inch tubes, or just like anywhere there's a 1/4 inch hole or something that you want to basically stop using, use a goof plug. Just pop it right in there and it closes up the hole, and good as new. It's always good to have a few of those. So I'm going to try to just get this pulled in line here. Luckily I have some dead plants that I can use as a
kind of a guide for where I want to put my new tubes in. But so I just kind of twist into it. Right now I think there's a little bit of pressure. Right, so pretty simple. There's a hole in there now. I like to do it not straight up, not straight directly towards the plant, but more of kind of like at a 45 degree angle, I guess, upwards and towards the plant. So next thing we want to do is put the barbed coupler in, and I put the barbed end towards the, I'm pretty sure this is the way you're supposed to do it, and I've put them in backwards before and they still work, but the barbed end towards the 1/4 inch. Okay, and this all rotates around, you know, once it's in there. It's not like it's, so you can move everything around pretty easily. And then again, the barbed end on the drip emitter, and I'm just gonna see if this will work for my application. But yeah, so pretty good length. Sometimes I do cut them a little long, you know, because you might end up planting, you know, a flower back here, plant back here, or a little further in, and you know, the water's going to get to the roots either way. But I like to get it as close to, or a little far from center, away from the irrigation. It just seems to me, you know, better to cut a little long. And this material is really inexpensive, so why not? So that's it. Okay, so that's a cool backdrop. So I'm finally finished. I do need to clean up the yard a little bit. Right now it's kind of a muddy, rocky mess, but you know, it's kind of always a rocky mess here in Arizona. Anyway, I just got done going through and checking each one of the emitters to make sure that there was flow. One of the things that I ran into while I was installing the emitters for the rose bushes was a few of the emitters were clogged up, or at least I think they were. So I basically, when I installed them, I checked on them, saw there was no flow, pulled them off while there was pressure, so I got a little wet there, but turned off the water, put them back on, turned the water on, tested them again, and they worked. So I think there was just some debris probably stuck in the main tube that made its way into the 1/4 inch tube, and then just blocked the diaphragm and the drip emitter. So anyway, that's done. Everything's going good. Yeah, long project. Took you know, a week total, 2 days. It's over 100 degrees here. It's miserable. So I blame that because I had to take a lot of breaks. It's very serious heat out here, and you know, that's one of the reasons why the plants need the irrigation. One of the reasons why I'm installing the irrigation is it's supposed to provide more efficient watering, and you know, you really don't want to waste water out here. So that's it. If you liked the content, please be sure to hit like, and if you want to continue to see videos that I'm posting where I'm doing all kinds of crazy things, from astro to gardening and whatnot, some programming things hopefully, be sure to subscribe. All right, thanks for watching.